Alright, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. So we're doing a review of the Salah section. We did the first half last time, we're going to finish the second half today. And then, inshallah, next time I'll have some exam sheets. I'll give you like a week to prepare, and then I'll give you some exam sheets at the end of next time's halaqah. If you want to try and see what you learned from this in the last number of weeks, then you can test yourself and then give it back to me, and I can mark it for you. Or again, it's there's nothing's going to happen. It's just a matter of you if you want to see if you learn the content or not. Okay. So where we stopped last time was. فصل والمرأة تخالف الرجل في خمسة أشياء, and the lady, when she prays, she is different from the woman in the man, in 5 ways, right? So that's where we stopped last time in revision. So we've talked about a number of stuff, differences. Right? In issues of prayer. Okay, so فالرجل يجافي مرفقيه عن جنبيه. So what the man does when he prays is that his elbows are not stuck to his body, they're open a bit. Now how open they are, that differs between scholars. Just make sure you don't push them out to the point where you hit the person beside you, okay? And the woman, when she prays, she keeps it close. ويقل بطنه عن فخذيه في الركوع وفي السجود. And the thighs don't touch his chest when he's making sujood or ruku', meaning there's a good distance between your torso and your thighs when you make ruku' and sujood. The woman doesn't do that. ويجهر في موضع الجهر, and he reads out loud when the prayer dictates you read out loud. وإذا نابه شيء في الصلاة سبح. And if something goes wrong in the prayer, by the imam in front of him, he'll say tasbih, he'll say subhanallah. وعورة الرجل ما بين سرته وركبته, and his awrah during prayer is from his navel to his knee, right? Now the women is different. Like these are the 5 things where there are differences between men and women during prayer. So that والمرأة تضم بعضها إلى بعض. When the woman prays, she keeps her arms close to her body, and she keeps her thighs closer to her torso when she's making sujood or when she's making ruku'. وتخفض صوتها بحضرة الرجال الأجانب. And when she's reading a prayer that has jahr, like Maghrib or Isha, she doesn't do jahr in a loud voice, especially if there's men around. وإذا نابها شيء في الصلاة صفقت. And if something goes wrong in prayer, she doesn't do tasbih, she claps. وجميع بدن الحرة عورة إلا وجهها وكفيها. And during prayer, all of her is awrah except her hands and her face and her hands. All right, so during prayer, she cannot cover her hands or her face, but besides that, during salah for you, for a man, it's between the navel and the knee. If that's covered, then you can do salah. Okay, yes.
If the sister's going to correct the imam, did she clap?
She corrects. If you made a mistake in movement, she just claps. If he makes a mistake in recitation, she can correct him. All right. وَالْأَمَةُ كَالرَّجُلِ, and a woman who does not have her freedom is like a man, and that's in terms of rulings of slaves. Yes.
Well, you mentioned, I believe that if the awrah is for a little bit for the man, then this prayer is still valid. Yeah. Right? What about for the woman?
Same thing. Nothing changes. Right. So if a small amount of awrah is like, say if you're praying and let's say your shirt goes up a bit or something, then your salah is fine, right? If it shows for a certain period of time or based on a certain movement or a small amount, then that's okay. But it's when you're starting prayer, right? You're going into prayer and there's actually like a part of your body that is exposed. It's not based on a movement. Like something wasn't exposed because you moved in a certain way. No, it was like that when you start. If you're standing, you started by standing up, and then there's something that is makshuf, something that is exposed, that is awrah, and that's where the problem comes in. But if it's exposed by movement and a small amount, then that's not a problem, inshallah, in terms of the validity of your salah. Okay. The chapter after that, فصل والذي يبطل الصلاة أحد عشر شيئا. So prayer invalidators. So there's 11 things that invalidate your prayer for the Shafi'iyya. Number 1, al-kalam al-amd, speaking on purpose outside of prayer. Talking to someone or any type of any form of speech that is not Quran or a form of tasbih during prayer. You're speaking with intention, talking to someone outside of prayer. During prayer, you lose your prayer. That's the first one. Number 2, al-amalul kathir. An excessive movement or excessive actions will cause, and we talked about that. We talked about like the limitations on that and the different opinions. So you can go back to that if you want to know a bit more. والحدث, الحدث is losing your wudu basically, so anything that could cause you to lose your wudu. وحدوث النجاسة, and for najasa to come upon you, either where you're praying or on your body in a certain level, an amount that would cause you not to be able to continue your prayer. Again, small amounts, we talked about that, doesn't allow, you don't use your prayer for that. وانكشاف العورة, and exposing your aura, and we talked about that it depends on yasir or not yasir. How is it a small amount of aura is being exposed or a lot of it? But if like you're standing in your prayer and your pants are those old and they just fall down, you can't get the khalas, you sell them and you go wear something that's not going to fall off, right? واستدبار
Is there like different levels, or is just aura is aura?
Yeah, there is different levels. The Hanabila differentiate between the saw'a and the awra, between like the very, very private parts and the awra. And for the Hanabila, if the private parts are exposed, then you lose your prayer. And if it's just the rest of the body, any other part of the awra, then no. Shafi'iyya don't have as much of a differentiation within their madhab. Like they talk about it a bit. In Mughni al-Muhtaj, you'll find some reference to it. They differ upon whether it's different or not. Since there's difference of opinion, we just stay saying that awra and saw'a, it's all the same. Like any part of the awra is the same for the Shafi'iyya. But the Hanabila see a difference. They specify a difference in their madhab.
Instead of prayer, is it okay for awra to show? Like,
no.
Like if you're playing shorts or like,
well then
like your swimming shorts are a little bit lower than your navel.
Yeah. So what we would argue or talk about then would be is fakhidh awra, right? Is the thigh awra, and that would be a different issue. Yeah. So with difference of opinion about the knees and about the thigh as well. For men, so there's a difference of opinion on that thing. So when we talk about, so that's what we would have to talk about. For prayer, because it's a very dangerous thing to invalidate your prayer completely, we stick to what is agreed upon, right? But then talk about sports, it's a different thing because not all scholars agree to the knee or the thigh being awra. Again, I'm not getting into the difference of opinion now. We'll talk about that inshallah. There'll come a point where we'll talk about that. Same thing. So the navel itself is, and we'll come to a point where we'll talk about that inshallah. The awrat, yeah.
Is there a hadith that talks about covering the shoulders?
Yeah, so it's sunnah to cover your shoulders. With a difference, again, there's a difference of opinion among scholars. It's not a part of the Shafi'iyya's kind of introductional texts or simple texts. They don't get into that. But yes, there are narrations that speak of covering the shoulders and covering the head as well. Like that's why usually if you go to a masjid in Middle East, you'll find abaya and you'll find a taqiyya always put there. Anyone's going to pray to put them on, to cover the abaya to cover the shoulders and the taqiyya to cover the head. And but again, it's an issue that doesn't really, it's not highly prioritized. Right? There's a difference of opinion regarding how much of a sunnah it actually is. Okay. وَتَغْيِيرُ النِّيَّةِ, and changing your niyyah during prayer also makes you lose your prayer. Like if you're praying Maghrib and you're like, oh, it's actually Isha, so then you change your niyyah in prayer. No, khalas, you're done. Go back and repeat again. وَاسْتِدْبَارُ الْقِبْلَةِ, and if you actually turn away from the qibla. And I also talked about the Shafi'iyya, for them, as long if your head moving, you don't lose prayer. But if your torso moves away from the qibla over 90 degrees, you lose your prayer. Now, if you go back to the videos, I talked about the difference of opinions for the different madhahib in terms of how much movement away from the qibla will make you lose your prayer. But for the Shafi'iyya, your head won't make you lose your prayer, it won't invalidate it, but your torso will if you go over 90 degrees from the qibla. So if I'm standing this way, if I go this way, I've lost my prayer. But if my head goes like that, I don't lose. It's makruh, it's unrecommended, you lose ajr, but you don't invalidate your prayer.
Some people just while to start, they fold up their pants or something like that. What's that?
They do what?
They just fold up their clothing or pants or whatever they wear.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
They fold their pants up before they start to pray.
They do?
There's some people that do.
Some people do.
So that's probably just attached to the point where certain hadith talk about not kind of walking with your clothing touching the ground, so they don't want to do that. But that hadith, that's a hadith that kind of refers to a matter or a problem of arrogance. Back in the day, people who had a lot of money, who wanted to show off, they would wear clothing that would just drag behind them on the ground. I don't know how that was, but that's how it was back then. That showed that you were very wealthy. Like you didn't care about clothing. You could just, fabric is very valuable, so just going to drag it on the ground. That's how rich you are. So the Prophet ﷺ would tell people not to do that, and he would say, "Ma tahta al-ka'bayni fi an-nar." There's a hadith with the difference of opinion on its authenticity. Is anything under the ka'bayn is going to be punishable, right? Under the ka'bayn. But that was again. This is the importance. This is the benefit of understanding the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ contextually. This makes a big difference. Like if you understand what he said ﷺ within the context of his time and the practices, it makes a big difference for us in terms of learning from it. He was telling people, it was an issue of khuyala. It was an issue of doing something with the intention and the appearance of arrogance. Right? Today, actually, you look dorky. Like if it's under, so it's not arrogance at all, and it's not clean, and you don't do it on purpose. And if you do it, you're not doing it because. And there's actually a hadith where Abu Bakr tells Ya Rasulullah, "Ala inni la ajurru thawbi." Sometimes there's a piece of my thawb that falls off, it gets ripped and it drags on the ground. فقال يا أبو بكر إنك لا تجره خيلاء. You don't do it with the intention of arrogance, Ya Abu Bakr, which is the point, right? So there's again understanding certain contexts will help with a hadith. All right. والأكل والشرب, yes.
During Salah, I don't know the Qibla, and I do my best to
Sure.
know the Qibla. And during the prayer, someone come and move me
Sure.
to the Qibla.
Sure. So for the Shafi'iyya, you lose your prayer. For the Hanafiyya, as long as you're not going over 180 degrees, you're fine. Like for the Hanafiyya, as long as you're not off by over 180 degrees. So for the Hanafiyya, the Shafi'iyya, you lose your prayer immediately. Just so that's clear, because for them, any small.
I did my best for Salah.
He
I don't know the Qibla. I don't know the Qibla.
So where were you?
In somewhere I don't know the Qibla. But
So it depends, because if you're in a masjid, it doesn't count. Like you can't say I did my best and then the masjid you just didn't try. But if you're nowhere, well, how do you know the guy who's changing you knows better than you?
In a park, for example.
Yeah, but how do you know that the person who's changing your qibla knows more than you?
Maybe he's like a customer.
if I make
What makes how many he's mistaken? So yeah, so changing or not, you shouldn't change.
If I in your home at your home and I don't know the Qibla, but I did my best to know from the sun from.
Sure. If there's no one to ask, then you pray. Only if you only change your qibla if you have reason to believe the person who's telling you to change definitely knows more than you. Because if he doesn't, then there's no point of you changing. If you're in my house, you should have asked me before you started to pray. Like something like. So if the scenario is just if it's just hypothetical, then for the Shafi'iyya or for the Jumhur. Sure. So hypothetically, في خلاف حتى بين الجمهور لا يتفق على شيء هنا. There's no agreement amongst Jumhur in terms of if you've tried your best and then someone comes and changes it for you during your salah, especially at least for everyone beside the Hanafi. The Hanafi, it doesn't make a difference as long as you're not over 280 degrees mistaken. Like if you're not turning around more than a half a circle, then you should be fine.
I do my best. Even though I do my best.
Yeah, so في خلاف, some of them say that you should change and your prayer continues normally. Yeah.
صليت وبعد كده عرفت اتجاه القبلة الحقيقي. يعني صليت صلاتي.
So if you put your effort, you don't repeat. Yeah, so if you put your effort, you don't repeat. بخلاف بين أهل العلم, with a difference of opinion among scholars in terms of because then they go down into details in terms of how much did you actually try and how far was it later until you found out, and they go down the nitty gritty of why that happened. So you can't just you have to really think of you have to go into a very hypothetical situation in order for you to find a very specific answer for that question.
Someone who's praying.
Yeah, that's fine. That's not a problem. It's specifically because it's only for the Shafi'i that they're very specific in terms of facing the qibla. Any small variation make you lose your salah. With the Jumhur, they don't see it like that.
المعنى الأفضل إن لو حصل حاجة زي كده وأكثر من 90 درجة يبقى عيد الصلاة من الأول. يعني لو حد جه وجهني يبقى عيد الصلاة.
Anything over 180, yeah, you should probably repeat, right? Specifically if you feel like you could have searched a bit more. Right, like because the issue is, could you have found out? I mean, could you have found out more? Could you have went and found out, or did you just ask, no one's here, and then there was a Muslim guy standing over, they could have asked him, you didn't ask him to. This is the issue, like did you actually exhaust every resource? Usually if you do that, you're not going to get, but if you do, there's a difference of opinion, whether your salah is going to be invalid or not valid. As long as under 180 degrees, then you're still okay for the Hanafiya at least. And there's an opinion like that in each madhab beside the Shafi'i madhab. The Shafi'i madhab are very strict and they're very accurate in terms of the qibla. But then you have to be more specific with the hypothesis, like exactly what's going on, the scenario that you're drawing. Okay. والأكل والشرب, eating and drinking. والقهقه, laughing out loud. والردة, leaving Islam. Obviously, your prayer is no longer acceptable. So these are the 11 things that will cause you to invalidate your prayer. So if you do ridda in the middle of your salah, I'm sorry, your salah is maqbool, you have to repeat it.
Laughing out loud.
Yeah.
If a child is doing something, and so what's acceptable? Like just keeping not laughing, haha.
Yeah, so حركة لها سبب لا تبطل الصلاة. So any movement and gesture that has a reason for it doesn't invalidate your prayer. So if you're standing and your kids and you do a snap or then that doesn't invalidate your prayer. Speaking to him will.
Is it makruh?
Yeah, but well, I wouldn't use the word makruh, especially with kids, especially if if these are your children or you're running a group of kids, okay, because that's your job basically to kind of do that. But the speaking will invalidate. So if you say Ya Muhammad uskut and then you continue your qira'ah, then no, you have to repeat again. Your kids aren't Muhammad. Yeah.
Could you cough as a way like to give somebody?
Again, there's a difference of opinion on that too. Like a lot. Just go. All ladies and all in the Middle East will cough, or they will read out loud. Like my great aunt would, if we were doing anything, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Alhamdulillah. So immediately I would just sit down quietly. She would read out loud. So it depends on really kind of the school that you follow. They differ on these things a lot in terms of what's okay and what's not. Tissues? If your nose is going down, yeah, you don't use your salah. It's not لا تبطل. It's not an invalidator. It's not mustahab. And you should just leave until the prayer is over. Like don't play with it. Just wait until the prayer is over and then clean it up. But if you do, you don't lose your prayer because it's لها سبب. Like there's a reason for it. Yeah, you actually you're doing something. As long as the number of movements are.
Because if there is mucus.
Yeah, that's fine. That doesn't do anything in prayer. Even if you're sayyim, even if you're fasting, it doesn't invalidate your prayer. So
number of movements.
Yeah, so it depends on the number of movements. For most of them, the Maliki are the easiest. They talk about a number of sufuf you can actually move between, 2 or 3 saf, and sometimes that could be 9 or 10 steps, and they're still okay with that. But for the Hanabila, they rounded it down to be anything that's less than 4 movements, consecutive movements, you're good. And the Shafi'i say as long as they're not consecutive, then you're okay. So if you pick something up, and then you put it, and you take it down, like you're not doing it all at once, then they're okay with that. So anything that's not consecutive is still acceptable. So if there's pauses between them that are long enough, then even if you do a lot of movements, it's still acceptable. And they differentiate between movement that is purposeful and movement that is not purposeful. Like you're doing it because there's a reason for it, like you're opening a door, like you're standing beside a door and someone's knocking, you can open the door, right? Like you let someone in, so stuff like that. But it has to be purposeful, and it's still makruh. It's not something good. Like it's not something not encouraging this, but it doesn't. What we're saying, does it invalidate, meaning your salah is batil or not? And I'm saying it doesn't invalidate, right? So that's the point that we're trying to make here. Okay, so those are the 11 things that tubtil as-salah. Again, the nitty-gritty of fiqh is going down to details. These texts that we're studying, the introductory texts, they don't go into these details. Like they just give things generally. Details you have to study more. I guess tertiary or secondary, tertiary texts to get down to all these little details.
All these details are asked just for like personal. Like,
yeah, I know. That's fine. I'm happy with that. I'm just telling you why you don't find these things in the this type of text, because this text is just giving the general idea. It's not really going down into all the different scenarios that could happen in your prayer that you may find difficult.
When it comes to doubting if you did a rak'ah, like you doubted that you missed a ruku, or you doubted that you missed one of the sajdas, you only go back to that original movement. You wouldn't go back to the original standing position. Like for example, like normally, like for myself, it would only be the issue of the 2 sajdas at the end. But let's say, for example, a person forgot their ruku and they went straight to sajda. Would they go to qiyam?
Depends on when they remember. If you remember within the rak'ah, you go back. If you remember after a few rak'ah, then you just continue and you do a whole rak'ah at the end.
Okay, so if you're still in the current rak'ah,
you can go back.
Go back to just the thing that you thought you missed.
Yep.
Go one step before.
Yep. Yep.
Just the one thing is up.
Yeah.
And if it was a previous rak'ah.
Yeah. So if you're in the third and you were sure if you did something in the first, then continue until you come to the 4th rak'ah, and then do an additional rak'ah to make up for the one that, and then do sujood as-sahw. And that's if you forget, like if you're too late. If you're still in the same rak'ah, just go back to that point and then continue as you go along. Right? Continue to do sujood as-sahw at the end of your prayer. All right. وَرَكَعَاتُ الْفَرَائِضِ 17 رَكَعَةً. At this point, he gives us numbers, right? So he tells us that there are 17 rak'ah for the fara'id a day. فيها 34 سجدة, there are 34 sujood, و94 تكبيرة, and 94 takbir, و9 تشهدات, and 9 tashahhuds you will do, و10 تسليمات, and 10 taslims you will do, و153 تسبيحا, you'll do 150 تسبيحة if you do 3 per فرض per rukn. وجملة الأركان في الصلاة 126 ركنا, and the number of arkan in prayer is 126 rukn altogether. في الصبح 30 ركنا, there are 30 rukn within صلاة الصبح and within Fajr. وفي المغرب 42 ركنا, and there are 32 rukn within Maghrib. وفي الرباعية, and in the four rak'ah prayer 54 ركنا, there are 54 rukn. So these are just again numbers that he gave rahimahullah in terms of the arkan and the number of rak'at within the fara'id, within a daily fard, like within all 5 fara'id a day. ومن عجز عن القيام في الفريضة صلى جالسا, ومن عجز عن الجلوس صلى مضطجعا. And he who cannot pray standing up will stand sitting down, and he who cannot stand sitting down will pray lying down. Now the only rukn that we have in faridah is what is starting the salah standing up, and then if later on you want to sit, you can sit. But if you can't stand up, then you're allowed to pray sitting down, laying down with your eyes. If you can't move anything at all, that's fine. والمتروك من الصلاة 3 أشياء. There are 3 things that you can forget in prayer. You can forget a fard, وسنة وهيئة. And I broke down the thing for you. I told you that the Shafi'iyya called fard, sunnah, hay'ah. Everyone else does rukn or fard, wajib, sunnah, except the Shafi'i have that weird change in terms of terminology. The Maliki have a bit of a difference that we'll come to inshallah once we study their texts, because they kind of look at things a bit differently. But that's the terminology that the Shafi'i use. So whatever the Shafi'i call sunnah is what the rest usually call wajib. What they call hay'ah is what the rest call sunnah, and that's how you kind of see you make the parallel, you draw the parallels. فالفرض لا ينوب عنه سجود السهو بل إن ذكره والزمان قريب أتى به وبنى عليه وسجد للسهو. So al-fard, if you forget it, you can't just make up for it with sujood as-sahw, but if you remember it and it's close, you go back and do it, and if not, you make up for a rak'ah and then you do sujood as-sahw at the end, right? والسنة لا يعود إليها بعد التلبس بالفرض لكنه يسجد للسهو عنها. And the sunnah, if you forget it and you've already started a fard, you don't go back to it. Like I told you, that specific situation, which is التشهد الأول. Once you stand up, you do not go back to it. Right, you stood up, you do sujood as-sahw at the end. Else you lost it, you don't go back to it. But if you're still in the halfway, you can go back. But if you stood up, then you've already in a fard, you don't go back to a sunnah from a fard in Shafi'iyya, and the same thing goes for everyone else in all the different madhab as well. But you do sujood as-sahw at the end for it. وَالْهَيْئَةُ لَا يَعُودُ إِلَيْهَا بَعْدَ تَرْكِهَا وَلَا يَسْجُدُ لِلسَّهْوِ عَنْهَا. And if you forget a hay'ah, you don't go back to it, and you don't make up for it with a sujood as-sahw at the end either. Basically you do nothing. وإذا شك في عدد ما أتى به من الركعات بنى على اليقين وهو الأقل وسجد للسهو. And if you are not sure how many rak'ah you've done in prayer, then you take the smallest number, you continue, and then you do sujood as-sahw at the end. So if you're not sure if this is the 3rd or the 4th, then it's the 3rd, and then at the end of the prayer you do sujood as-sahw. Okay, so if you forget, forget that. Okay. وسجود السهو سنة ومحله قبل السلام. And the action of sujood as-sahw is a sunnah, and as you do it before salam. So if you forget sahw, it's not a problem either. وسهو عن السهو سهو. So if you forget sahw, then you've forgotten. And if you've got sahw, then you've forgotten a lot in the prayer. Maybe you should just kind of do it again for the ajr. All right. وخمسة أوقات لا يصلى فيها إلا صلاة لها سبب. And there are 5 times that you should not pray unless your prayer has a reason for it. Right. So. Yes.
That only used to do after the shahud before.
Sorry.
Back home, we always do.
Yeah, so there's a different opinion in different madhahib in terms of sujood as-sahw. Some of them do it after salam, some of them do it before. We do it before. The Shafi'i do it before. We'll talk about that inshallah once we come to it. Most people do it before. Like it's
we used to after the shahud.
Yeah, there's a
before even through the Ibrahim.
Before you do Salat al-Ibrahimiyya. Yeah, so there's an opinion like that as well. Yeah, there's different opinions on sahw. But what we do right now and what the Shafi'i do is what the majority does. So the other opinions are a bit weaker and less people do it, so I didn't bring them up. But we'll talk about them when we come to them inshallah. All right. So what are the times that are unrecommended for prayers? بعد صلاة الصبح حتى تطلع الشمس. So after you pray Fajr and until the sun actually is up in the sky. وعند طلوعها حتى تتكامل وترتفع وقدر الرمح. And after it rises until it's up the distance or the length of a spear into the sky. So you're talking basically, look at the sky, the time over there. So around 8. So around 8 o'clock is when you can start praying again. But after Fajr, whenever you pray Fajr, let's say you start at 6:30. So until 8 o'clock, you should not be doing any prayers. So this is a time where you're actually told not to pray. And, there's certain times that happen. And these are 2 times for the Shafi'i, but they're actually 1 time. Like it's all the same thing. وإذا استوت حتى تزول. And then when it's coming to the middle of the sky, until Dhuhr time comes. So 12, I think it's 12:20 is Dhuhr time. So from 12 to 12:20, that 20 minutes before Dhuhr time, you shouldn't do prayer. وبعد صلاة العصر حتى تغرب الشمس. And after you pray Asr until Ghurub. So after you pray Asr, you don't pray any more prayers. That's it. From Asr until sunset. That timing you don't do prayers. وعند الغروب حتى يتكامل غروبها. And from the moment it starts to set until it's actually completely set, until Maghrib basically, until it's okay to pray Maghrib time. So basically, there's 3 times. The Shafi'i have them in 5 categories, but there's actually just 3 things. It's from after Fajr prayer until the sun is up the distance or the length of a spear into the sky, which is around 8 o'clock. And then just before it comes to Zawal until it's in the middle of the sky, so the 20 minutes or 15 minutes before Dhuhr time, you're not supposed to pray. And then from after Asr until it's Maghrib time, until you're supposed to pray Maghrib. So that for that whole period, you're not supposed to do Salah. So those timings, you're not supposed to do Fard or Nafil. You can make up for a prayer that you forgot. Right? So you're allowed to make up for a prayer that you forgot. So if you haven't prayed the day before a salah and you remember, you should pray it because you don't know if you'll live long enough to actually make it up in a better time. So you make for it immediately. But you don't do a nafil. You don't just do a regular, I just want to pray, I feel like praying. Okay, just don't do it now, do it later. There's different times for it. Okay. وصلاة الجماعة سنة مؤكدة وعلى المأموم أن ينوي الائتمام دون الإمام. So praying in congregation for the Shafi'i is sunnah mu'akkada, meaning it's a strongly recommended thing to do, right? So it's a strongly recommended sunnah, praying in congregation. And the person who's following has to make the intention of following someone. The imam, the person who's leading the prayer, does not have to make any intentions. You just pray. So if you're praying by yourself and someone comes prays behind you, don't panic. It's fine. You're like, I didn't make the intention of imam. You didn't have to. Just pray. Just make your sound. Do the takbirat in a voice they can hear you, so that they can follow you. But if you're following someone, you have to make the intention. I'm going to follow this imam, and that's basically just knowing that this guy is going to be leading me in prayer, and I'll do what he's doing. That's all you need to do. There's nothing you have to say specifically. ويجوز أن يأتم الحر بالعبد والبالغ بالمراهق. And it's okay for a free person to follow a slave in prayer, and an adult to follow an adolescent or a child in prayer. ولا تصح قدوة رجل بامرأة ولا قارئ بأمي. And it's not okay for someone who recites the Quran. First of all, a man cannot follow a woman in prayer. So if she can't lead a man in salah, women cannot lead men in prayers. And someone who cannot read the Fatiha cannot lead someone who can read the Fatiha. So if you cannot read the Fatiha, you can only lead if no one knows how to read the Fatiha. Like there's a bunch of people, not one person knows how to read Surah Al-Fatiha, so it doesn't matter who leads. But if one of them does, then that person has to be the imam. Like he has to, because he can read the Fatiha properly. All right.
Just had a quick question.
Yeah.
The problem that we do have on campus a lot is when there's a girl and there's a guy, can the girl pray with the one with
Yep.
his hands?
Yep.
And there's also hadith where you can't really pray the mahram, whatever it is.
No, that's all right.
It's not right at all?
It's okay. She can pray. She can follow any guy. Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's a masjid. So basically a prayer room is a masjid. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I was just curious because I've heard some opinions saying that a husband and wife can pray next to each other, but what about a number of women? Like let's say you're in a situation where it's like kind of like a narrow hallway, and in order to face the Qibla, you basically need to have a row of women praying next to one man. Would it still be considered the same, or would there be a...
Well, that's like darura. It doesn't matter. Like whenever you don't have the liberty of the space, then you pray however. Like you only follow the rulings of how to stand properly when space allows. But when it doesn't, you just do whatever you have to do. Like if you're in a house, there's like 25 people that want to pray and there's like no room. You just stand wherever you need to, wherever you can stand to salli. Yani.
So at that point, like if it makes more sense for 3 men to be right beside the imam, and then 5,
Yeah.
and then 7, and
That's fine. Yeah. So whatever the space permits, that's fine. We only talk about like finishing the sufuf and many before when it's masjid, when it's actually the space is spacious and you can do it however you want. But when you're limited in your space, however it works, I mean, people beside each other, right behind each other, ما تفرق يعني, whatever you can do.
If you're not limited space, yeah, there's always the issue of when there's just 2 people praying together beside each other, yani, how much further back do they pray?
So they differ on that. As long as you're yani, you should be right, you should be beside the person. Your heel should be behind their heel. Now, how much they differ on that? Like, there's actually a lot of difference of opinion. Just as long as your heel is a bit behind their heel, you're fine. And besides that, there's really not much. Yani. Again, it's going down to the nitty-gritty of all the khilaf of the madhahib, and it's just very yes.
So, in case, if by chance a woman knows how to read Surah Fatiha, can read better than a person.
There's no better. As long as the guy can read it, he's imam.
If she cannot read, then
At all?
Yeah.
Then she can lead.
She can.
Yeah. There. I've made the fatwa. You guys can leave. Yeah, I'm done. Khalas. Drop it, huh? Khalas.
If someone will come to the jama'ah or congregation and the imam don't know the Fatiha, doesn't know the Fatiha, and the one who come
he waits.
know the Fatiha.
Yeah, he waits. Yeah, he waits until they're finished, then he prays after them.
Oh, he doesn't join them?
Yeah, he doesn't join them, no.
I didn't even know it's better.
Yeah, because if he can't read the Fatiha, the prayer in itself is problematic, right? So he shouldn't. But that's the only thing. He should be able to read the Fatiha, not perfectly. Just say the Bismillahi, Alhamdulillahi. Just say the words. Yani, that's all really. That's all. It's very rare. Like. Again, it's a hypothetical situation. Yani, when was the last time you saw a congregation of people and the imam couldn't read the Fatiha and not one of them could read the Fatiha? That's very, yani, there are answers for these questions. The thing is, why would I even think about him if that is like so extremely rare for you to have like 15 people, not one of them can read the Fatiha, and it's a congregation and it's a whole masjid, and so but even with that you don't join. Like if you can read the Fatiha and they cannot read it, then you don't join them, you don't follow them. You wait until they're finished and then you pray after that, inshallah. And you explain to them why. Yani, that you guys can't, because it's problematic for you, because you can read the Fatiha and they're not, and that can cause your prayer to be invalid. The only reason that this person is allowed to lead is because it's a darura. There's no other way to do it, really. Because there's really no choice. But if there was a choice, he's not allowed to lead. Which is a problem. And again, it's just a matter of getting the basic makharij, not have to do ghunan and mudud and no, just the basic letters are audible and you can understand what's being said. All right. Now, وأي موضع صلى في المسجد بصلاة الإمام فيه وهو عالم بصلاته أجزأه ما لم يتقدم عليه. In any place in the masjid you pray, following an imam, and you know what the imam is doing. I'm praying over here, and the imam's over there. As long as I know what he's doing, then my salah is okay. It's not, I shouldn't be standing here. I should be standing with the group, but my salah is acceptable, right? Unless I'm standing in front of him. I cannot be in front of the imam. So as long as I'm standing, I know what's going on, then it's acceptable. Now, with the difference of opinion, if you're standing alone, then that's a whole different thing, and that can become problematic for different madhab. But for the Shafi'i, it's not mubtil. You don't lose your prayer. If you're standing over here and the imam's over there, and you should be over there, but you're not, as long as you're towards the qibla, then that's fine. وإن صلى في المسجد والمأموم خارج المسجد قريبا منه وهو عالم بصلاته ولا حائل هناك جاز. And if you're praying in the masjid and someone's praying behind you outside the masjid and it's close to like up to 300 feet, or maybe a bit more, maybe 300 meters, let's say, or maybe 200 meters is I think the best approximation. And you can hear his prayer, meaning you hear what's going on, you know what's going on, and there's no mountain in between or house in between, then your prayer is okay. If it's, and that's saying if it's not connected. If it's connected, it could go for as long as you want it to go. If the sufuf are connected, it can go inshallah to Alberta again. It doesn't make a difference as long as it's connected. But if it's disconnected, then it can only be a certain certain distance, and there should be no obstacle between you, and you should be able to hear the imam, right? And your prayer is not batil. I mean, it's not valid, but still, you shouldn't have done that. Yes.
What if there's like a wall?
Yeah, so a wall would be a problem. Like a wall is, it would be considered an obstacle. Yeah.
Like, for example, like at the Islamic Center for like Eid prayer. Like if there's not enough space, and then
yeah, but that's all connected.
there's a wall.
Yeah, it doesn't. If it's connected, it doesn't matter. There could be like a country. It doesn't matter as long as it's connected. As long as like one line, second line, no more space, second, third line. So it could be a wall in the middle. Doesn't matter as long as it's connected.
No, like example, like they're praying like here, and that's there's a wall here, and they're praying on like the other side.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, because that's connected, and there's not that much between you and the next person who is praying. And again, when it comes to limited space, a lot of these are talking about scenarios where you're not limited by space, or you're not stuck into a corner where you have the ability to go. Didn't do it. So it's telling you what the limitations are in terms of that. But once you're limited in space, that's fine. Yes. Who was asking something? Yes.
What was the opinion of levels again? If there's a basement and the people like are directly underneath the imams are downstairs, like
that's fine. Yeah. Yeah. So if you're praying in the basement, or even higher than the imam, that's all okay. Because it does. What we talked about then was if the basement is a bit ahead of the imam, is that a problem? Or if the higher level is ahead. So because it's not on the same level, it's not a problem. So you shouldn't be in front of the imam if you're on the same level of the imam. If you're higher or lower, it's not a problem. Being in the basement is not a problem as long as you can hear what's going on. Like there's a way for you to actually communicate in terms of understanding what movements he's making. And with microphones today, it's not a problem anymore. But if that falls off, then you have to.
Did they have levels at the time of the Prophet?
No, never. Yeah, there was no roof on the masjid at the time. Yeah, when it rained, they did sujood in mud. Yeah, they would get up and their faces would be all mud whenever it rained. So yeah, it was a very different.
When you have a really big jama'ah, sometimes you'll hear one person repeat the takbir of the imam. Is there a precedence for that? Is there evidence for that? Or is it just something that out of necessity? Or?
Yeah, no, they did it. Like the issue of repeating what the imam does happened during the Prophet ﷺ's life a number of times, sometimes for his khutab and sometimes for his prayers. But it was done because there was so many people that his Allahu Akbar was not going to make it. So there's a number of sufuf, and then there'll be someone who would make it. So between 9 and 15 lines, there'll be someone after that to say Allahu Akbar, Allah, and they would wait until all of them did it, and then the Prophet said Allahu Akbar, and did the same thing because everyone could need to hear, because sometimes they couldn't hear, and it would take too long for people to see people moving until to actually move. And he did that, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then it was done during the time of Abu Bakr and Umar. It was done until this day. That's why in the Haram they still do it, even though there's no point of it. Like even though people can hear it through the microphone, and they continue to do it anyway. It's just something that was done for so long, like for at least 1300 years. So they just continued doing it because they didn't want to stop it. But the point of it was that people couldn't hear because there was no microphones. And the whole idea of the qubab was to fix that problem. Like the whole idea of the what is it called? The domes, like in the masajid, was that dome is supposed to finish, the tip of it should be where the imam stands. So when he says Allahu Akbar, it transfers the sound to the end, so you don't need as many people screaming out Allahu Akbar in terms of it, for it to work. And that's actually why the qubba is.
Is there anything for the imam to stand in the mihrab?
Again, the whole point of that was the sound. It was all sound. The mihrab is oval shaped, so it reflects the sound. And if you had the dome on top, it takes the sound. Like it's very interesting. If you go to one of the masajid in Spain, you'll find the craftsmanship of it is really well done. So the imam can say something in the mihrab, and everyone in the masjid can hear it. It's amazing. Like the architecture of it is just it's fascinating. But now, of course, this is a perfect example of where we are as an ummah. We hold on to the madhhar even though it doesn't serve the purpose anymore. We hold on to stuff that don't serve purposes anymore just because that's that's how it's done. And then this is not an issue. Like it's a mihrab, whatever. It's just a qubba. It's not that big. But we have a lot of stuff like that where we're still holding on to something that used to help, and now it died off. Like dude, like just let go. It doesn't do anything anymore. And that's an example of. Yes. Anything else? Okay.
Inside. Allah's rahmat doesn't shower on you.
No hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. No, none of that exists at all. No. Ya Sheikh, there's Allahu Akbar. Okay. Yeah, it's you hear a lot. Okay, let's see if we can. We're not going to finish today. Subhanallah. All right. ويجوز للمسافر قصر الصلاة الرباعية بخمس شرائط. And it's okay for the person who was traveling to bring down the 4 rak'ah prayer to 2 rak'ah prayer with 5 conditions. The first condition, أن يكون سفره في غير معصية, that he is traveling not for the intention of sin. As long as you're traveling not for the of sinning, like you're not going to drink alcohol or to perform zina, then you're fine. If you're going for recreation, intention, that's okay. Just don't have the niyyah of doing haram, and you're okay to. And that's for the Shafi'iyya only. The rest of the madhab don't see the same thing. وأن تكون مسافته 16 فرسخا, and for the distance to be 16 farsakh, which is around 81 kilometers. And I broke down the whole distance thing in last time when we talked about it. So go back to the videos if you want to know exactly and all the difference of opinions. You can find it there. وأن يكون مؤديا للصلاة الرباعية, for the person to pray for rak'ah normally during his day, and he's not doing this just so he can make up for all the 4 salawat that he left out during prayer. Like, oh, I have a discount now, I can pray all of the things that I forgot for too. No, so you can't do that. وأن ينوي القصر مع الإحرام, and that you have the intention of doing 2 rak'ah instead of 4 before you make the ihram, or as you're making the takbir al-ihram. As you're saying Allahu Akbar, you're in your mind, I'm doing 2 and I'm not doing 4. If you made the intention of 4, you can't just say, oh, by the way, it's a discount, I'm safar, so I can do 2. No, continue 4 because you made the intention of 4 at the beginning. Because if you change niyyah during prayer, it invalidates prayer, right? So you can't continue.
Can you just simplify your intention? Like, I'm praying as a traveler.
Yeah, that's fine. Just an intention is you knowing what you're doing. That's all. Do you know what you're doing? What are you doing? I'm doing 2. Khalas, that's your intention. But if you're like, I don't know what I'm doing, then we go back to the natural. The natural is 4, and you have to stick to that. But if you know what you're doing, then you're good. أَلَّا يَأْتَمَّ بِمُقِيمٍ, and for musafir not to follow a muqim, someone who's doing 4 rak'at. So if you're going to do 2, don't follow someone doing 4. Wait until they're finished and pray alone, or pray with people who are doing only qasr. So that's the only way. That's the only time where it's not proper for you to follow someone. You can follow someone doing anything. If you're praying for Maghrib, you can follow someone praying Isha. If you're praying Witr, you can follow someone praying Dhuhr. It doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't really matter how it works out. You can just either continue after them or finish before them, except for a musafir and a muqim. A musafir should not follow a muqim. If you follow a muqim, then you should pray 4 rak'at. That's the only.
One quick question. If you miss your Fajr prayer, or say Zuhr prayer, and you come at Asr time with Jama'ah,
pray Asr and then pray Dhuhr. ويجوز العكس, and you can do the opposite as well. So you can do either thing. You can pray Dhuhr then Asr, Asr then Dhuhr, it's alright.
With Jama'ah.
Yeah.
If you join the Jama'ah, it will be first whatever your niyyah.
Yeah, whatever your niyyah is. Yeah, whatever your niyyah is, it'll be. Yeah. ويجوز للمسافر أن يجمع بين الظهر والعصر في وقت أيهما شاء وبين المغرب والعشاء في وقت أيهما شاء. And it's okay for you to do qasr and then do جمع تقديم أو تأخير. So you can put ظهر and asr in either times, and ظهر time or asr time. You can put maghrib and isha in maghrib time or isha time, right? And you just always start with the first and do the second. The Shafi'i are okay with you doing the second prayer before the first prayer if you're doing in the second prayer's time. Only the Shafi'i are okay with that. Okay. Yeah. That's if you're doing the second prayer's time. ويجوز للحاضر في المطر أن يجمع بينهما في وقت الأولى منهما. And it's okay for you if you're a resident to pray 2 prayers, Maghrib and Isha at the same time, or Dhuhr and Asr at the same time, or after each other, if it's raining excessively or there's a lot of snow. So yesterday, if you were here, did they do Maghrib and Isha yesterday here at the masjid? Who prayed Maghrib here yesterday at the masjid? Did you do Isha after it? So you're allowed to do that. Like yesterday, because of the weather, you were allowed to pray Maghrib and then stand up and pray Isha immediately after it, and not come back for Isha later on because of the bad weather. Now, because people, and you have cars and it's easier to get here, and most people are going to come anyway, so they would just not do. But you're allowed to do it. Like there's a preference, or there's a permissibility of you doing that, during Salah.
Does it make any difference if somebody wanted to do that but the imam didn't do that?
Yeah, there is a difference of opinion on that. In terms of, is it okay to do it if the imam doesn't do it or not? Can you go against the imam and pray alone? And the best thing to do is just do what the imam does. So whatever the imam does, it's just better to follow. But there are, again, there are little details there that you can.
You just fist fight for the.
Yes, that's definitely the way to do it. That's how we fix all our problems in Islam, isn't it? Like it's fist fighting. Okay, we'll just let me just try. I'll try to finish up a few more chapters, and subhanAllah, we didn't get to them. وشرائط وجوب الجمعة سبعة أشياء, and the conditions for Jum'ah to be wajib, are 7 things. So you have to be a Muslim, Islamu, والبلوغ, maturity, والعقل, sanity, والحرية, freedom, والذكورية, male, being a male, والصحة, and having, of course, being healthy and not sick, والاستيطان, and being a resident. So these are the 7 conditions that you would need in order for you to have Jum'ah obligated upon you. وشرائط فعلها ثلاثة, and there are 3 conditions for actually doing it. Is أن تكون البلد مصرا أو قرية, meaning the place has to be a county, has to be a specific area that is named. It's either a village or a town or a city. It can't just be open land and people are just running. No, it has to have this is this county or this area. It has to be a place that is seen as a populated specific area. When يكون العدد 40 من أهل الجمعة, and you have to have 40 people from the people of Jumu'ah, not the Imam, from the people in the Jumu'ah. You have to have 40 people for the Shafi'i. And I talked about the different numbers and different madhahib. وأن يكون الوقت باقيا, and it has to be during, of course, Dhuhr time. If it's the time is, if you're going to end up praying outside of Dhuhr time, then you just pray Dhuhr. You don't do Jumu'ah anymore. So it has to be done during the proper time. فإن خرج الوقت أو عدمت الشروط صليت ظهرا. If time is up, or we don't have 40 people, or the place that we're in is not considered a county, or we're traveling, we're not. Then we just pray Dhuhr. We don't pray Jumu'ah. So if you're traveling, don't look for a Jumu'ah prayer. Just pray Dhuhr. Like you're traveling, you don't have to pray Jumu'ah. Like if you're traveling, don't look for Jumu'ah. It's not obligatory upon you. Just go pray Dhuhr anywhere and just keep on going because you're a musafir. Right.
The ajr is not.
You got ajr, but I'm saying you don't have to do it. Like it's a rukhsa. Like because sometimes you're traveling and Jumu'ah is difficult. Like it's an hour and a half and traffic and those. Like it could cause, if you're doing something, it could make it very hard for you to get what you're doing done.
So if somebody that's not a Muslim wants to come and try and pray with us, is that okay to invite them over and
for Jumu'ah?
No, just for any prayer in general. Like
to do what?
You just want to try and pray with us.
Just move up and down?
Yeah. They want to see what it's, they're like, oh, what do you guys do?
All right, that's fine. If it's just a matter of education, but I don't see the point really.
Yeah, some people come, they come.
That's fine. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with it. Like there's nothing.
Some people like, oh, he's gonna pray. Like he's not Muslim. But
No, it's fine. No, it's fine. They're welcome to it. I just don't see the point. Like, what would they benefit? What they're looking for? They're looking for like a spiritual high.
They might.
You're not gonna find a spiritual high in moving. Like you guys, people are praying for 40 years and know what they're saying, and they're not getting a spiritual high. What is he gonna get? So that's fine. If he wants to try things out, like if it's a matter of education, if he wants to try and do sujood for the first time or try, that's not a problem. But we have no reason for us to shy him away, or to while you're doing it. But I'm just saying, I don't see like the. I wouldn't.
I think he was asking like, do you have to be Muslim to pray or something?
No, he knows that. No, that's not his question. No, that's not his question. No, I understand what you mean, because sometimes people come and pray and they look, they're like, why is he doing this? It's fine. They can come and try whatever they want to try. I just don't see the point of them trying it. Like, they'll be disappointed, I guess. What I'm trying to say.
I don't know, like, well, if somebody behind him is a Muslim and then he's not Muslim in front of him who's doing these movements, should we not put him there?
See, that's the thing. If you put him where he has no idea what he's doing and he's messing everything up, maybe he prays somewhere. Maybe he prays here, like somewhere far, so he doesn't get in the middle of things. Just for his own sake, because people don't know. Not everyone knows, and maybe they come and start giving him nasiha because we're very good at giving nasiha. And they start telling the brother, and he's like, I'm not your brother yet. Like,
I think, is it allowed non-Muslims, between Muslims in the line?
That's your question? In the line? Yeah, well, we differ there too. Like, see, if we're living in a balad ajnabi, like you're living in a place like this, and there's a hikmah, or there's an intention of actually helping people find Islam, then yeah, there's a rukhsa there. Like you're allowed to put in between the sufuf because you're actually trying to do da'wah, and there's a lot of non-Muslims in the country. Back in a Muslim country, it'd be a bit different because the majority are Muslims, and that's not really needed as much. Or today, probably in today's context, it's needed everywhere. So I don't see it to be much of a problem. Qata' as-saf does not do qata' of salah. It's not recommended, obviously, but if there's a hikmah and there's some benefit of it for someone to learn, Wallahu a'lam, I don't recall it being a scenario in any of the kutub that I've studied, like the kutub al-madhahib, but I remember reading it as a fatwa, like as a separate fatwa a number of years ago, and they were okay with that, like specifically in non-Muslim countries. Wallahu a'lam. Okay. وفرائضها ثلاثة. The Jum'ah khutbah has 3 fara'id. خطبتان يقوم فيهما ويجلس بينهما. There has to be 2 khutbahs. He stands and then he sits and he stands again. And that وأن تصلي ركعتين. Then there's 2 rak'ah at the end. في جماعة, and it happens in congregation. These are the 3 obligations for jama'ah. We talked about the khutbatain and what they need. There are certain arkan. There are certain arkan for the khutbah. It's not here in the matn, but I talked about them before. So if you want to go back and make sure you know them, because the Shafiee have the longest, with the Hanafi have the longest list of obligations for the khutbah Jum'ah. So if you want to know you want to be on the safe side, do what the Shafi'i say in terms of the khutbah. وَهَيْئَاتُهَا أَرْبَعُ خِصَالٍ. And there are 4 sunan, 4 good things to do for Jum'ah. الغسل وتنظيف الجسد, having a shower and washing your body. ولبس الثياب البيض, and wearing white clothing. وأخذ الظفر, and trimming your nails. والطيب, and putting on a fragrance, smelling nice. So these are the 4 mustahabbat. ويستحب الإنصات في وقت الخطبة, and it's mustahab, it's recommended that you listen carefully during the khutbah time. ومن دخل والإمام يخطب صلى ركعتين خفيفتين ثم يجلس. And he who walks into the masjid where the imam is doing khutbah prays 2 quick rak'ah of nafilah and then sit down. I told you the Malikiyya said that he doesn't have to do that, but the Jumhur.
thing.
يعني quick. يعني you don't read like a Surah Al-Baqarah and so you just read like Kawthar and Qul Ahad and sit down so you can listen to the Imam. I think we should stop there. Yeah, so it's 9 o'clock.
Quick question about
Yeah.
40. Having 40
Yeah.
across all madahib.
No, so I broke the numbers down in the previous time. There's actually, there's Imam say that you and one person can do Jama'ah, right? So I would stick to what the Hanafiya said, which is 3 and the Imam. If you're in a hospital or you're somewhere and there's not 3 in Imam, just pray Dhuhr. Right? So, but if you're 3 people in the Imam, and then someone give a khutbah and then pray 2 rak'ah, but the Shafi'iyya has to be 40. If it's 39, they don't do it. And there's like situations in certain villages and small populations that 39, so they just pray Dhuhr. Like there's not enough people actually to do a Jama'ah if they're Shafi'iyya and their madhab. Okay, so we'll stop there. SubhanAllah, we still, probably we're going to need next time to be able to finish this revision. Wow, this revision took three sittings, SubhanAllah.
Like 1 or 2 pages?
No, there's actually, there's a bit left. No, there's a bit left. So there's as much as, so basically we ended up doing thirds. So we've done the 2/3 and there's a third left of this. This is the longest chapter that exists in all the books of fiqh. Like any book of fiqh, you open up, you take salah, you find it to be the thickest because it has all the rules. Because you saw how many questions I got, like all these questions and these hypotheticals and the scenarios and all this. So there's a lot of stuff that can happen in salah that can make it, not sure of what to do. So we'll, covering that is helpful inshallah. And then the rest it becomes a bit more, I'm not saying less practical, but it's less common, and we'll get to talk about zakah and finances and stuff like that, and you'll find like a lot of these things don't exist today, and we'll talk about whatever parallels we can draw inshallah. Jazakumullah khair. Subhanallah bihamdika, la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.